Hello, everybody. Welcome to I Can't Know Music, I'll Know Music, episode 12. This is the podcast on theculturalpeople.com where we listen to an album and then talk about it. Um, we do one a week. My name is Michael Nipp, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Blake Wilson.
Hello.
All right, so we're going to start this off right off the bat. We haven't talked about our thoughts on this album beforehand. Did I say what we're doing? This week we listened to Doolittle by the band called Pixies. It came out in 1989. I don't know how to genre classify this. It's like kind of pre-grungy rock.
It's considered like one of the fathers of alt rock.
Okay.
So yeah, alt rock.
All right, so let's dive right into our initial thoughts. Thumbs up or thumbs down on this album for you?
I really like this album.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, then we're going to have some big disagreements because I think that this album is incredibly obnoxious and overrated in so many ways. But I also have to recognize that it inspired a lot of other things that I do like.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key things being people always compare Weezer to this band, and musically I can kind of see that, not necessarily thematically or anything, but I don't know, I'm just not a fan of this album, and it made me feel so weird because I'm looking up stuff about the album and the entire internet is super into it and
Mm-hmm.
talking about how good some of these songs that I just can't stand are. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think before we dive into the track by track analyzation of each of the songs on the album, we have to broach the fact that this album heavily relies on a thing called surrealism, which I had to look up on Wikipedia to get kind of a basis for what's going on here. So I'm going to read a bunch of Wikipedia dump here. It says, surrealism is a cultural movement that began in the early 1920s and is best known for its visual artworkings and writings. The aim was to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality. Artists painted unnerving, illogical scenes with photographic precision, created strange creatures from everyday objects, and developed painting techniques that allowed the unconscious to express itself. Surrealist works feature the element of surprise, unexpected juxtapositions, and non sequitur. However, many surrealist artists and writers regard their work as an expression of the philosophical movement first and foremost, with the works being an artifact. Leader, let's see, blah, blah, blah. From the 1920s onward, the movement spread around the globe, eventually affecting the visual arts, literature, film, and music of many countries and languages, as well as political thought and practice, philosophy, and social theory. So it's the weird idea of using things that don't make sense or are contradictory to try to push some kind of other point or make you think about it a different way. I don't know. If this album, I don't know. I'll just say if this album is an expression of that used very well, then I'm not sure I'm a fan of the tactic. All right, so we'll go by the track by track. The first song, also one of the singles released for the album, is called Debaser. What were your thoughts on this song?
I think that this is kind of one of the. It's not my favorite song on the album. I think it stands up all right, but it's not the best. But it's written about the silent French film that came out, I think, in the 30s called Untitled Chapter, which is probably being pronounced wrong, which translates to a dog Andalusa. And he talks about cutting up eyeballs, which is apparently the opening scene in that the movie and stuff. But yeah, most of the songs on this album are very minimalistic and kind of abstract So
they're extremely abstract.
yeah. Um, which makes them a little bit harder to decipher if you can decipher them at all. And they're also pretty, I don't know. At face value, they're pretty simple.
Looking at I'm looking at the opinions of a lot of Pixies fans on the internet, and then also listening to certain or like reading certain quotes that the writer for the band Pixies put forward. Is a lot of these songs intentionally cannot be interpreted, and they are just they are lyrics that sometimes vaguely reference a thing that happened, sometimes don't mean anything, and they're intentionally nonsensical. And like this is a song where he references a movie. He makes very clear references to a movie where he mentions multiple times a woman gets her eyes cut with a razor. And that's kind of the only thing that the song says, but it's also like it's like a 3-minute song, but like they're trying to tell a story with the music, sometimes to better degrees than others. Musically, I don't have a problem with some of these songs, except that I really don't like the vocalist either, who's just, it reminds me of Devo, where it's kind of obnoxious and, you know, intentionally so. I think he's aiming for that. But I just, the nonsensicality of all of these things, I don't know if that's a thing that I can get into. Once again, this was one of the singles, so this should be one of the more popular. Like, it's catchy or whatever, but I don't know. The next song is called Tame. I'm gonna let you. I want to hear your perspective on a lot of these before I come in and ruin everything, because you were still more fan of the album. So what'd you got for Tame?
All right, so the song is what's his name? Black Francis, the frontman for Pixies and the writer of, I think,
all the songs except for Silver, which was him, and the bassist, who I can't remember his name. Anyways, he said this was a song about some college girls that lived in his neighborhood, written about how they kind of want to be like wild, kind of dirty college girls, but they're not. They're tame and they're faking it, and they can't really pull it off, according to him. At least this song was like musically, it's catchy. I enjoy what they're doing here. I actually read, there was a quote, and this is a good song to bring this up on. When Cobain of Nirvana wrote "Smells Like Teen Spirit," he said there was some quote along the lines of like, when music critics hear this song, they're gonna hate it because they think we're just ripping off the Pixies. And like, this is a good kind of like example of that, where it's like this soft kind of, you know, soft, more spoken whatever song that eventually gets loud and yelly and kind of like, this is very grungy in a lot of ways. And this is kind of an example of that.
Yeah, through this entire album, you can definitely hear where they have influenced other alt rock bands. Like, for example, I believe where's the track list? Okay, I Bleed, which is in 2 tracks. I think that one sounds a whole lot like Undone by Weezer.
Yes, that okay. So that is the musical sounds. I understand why people think, especially Blue Album and maybe Pinkerton, like sounds kind of Pixie-esque. It's just the musical sounds are only half of what's being portrayed on the album, and the thematic everything is just so different from any other band I've ever really listened to.
Yeah.
The next song is called Wave of Mutilation, which I guess I'll start off with. Evidently, this song, like if these songs have any cultural touchstone, this one's cultural touchstone is that there was a point where Japanese businessmen were committing like suicide with their entire family by like driving their vehicle full of their family into the ocean to commit suicide when like they would lose honor or respect in their business or something. this song is like generally feels like a song about self-deprecation, like self-abuse,
Mhm.
but it's very, very nonsensical and like the lyrics are like seeks to resist, giving my goodbye, drive my car into the ocean. You'll think I'm dead, but I sail away on a wave of mutilation. I've kissed mermaids, rode the El Nino, walked the sand with the crustaceans, couldn't find my way to the marina on a wave of mutilation. Like it's just very. It's almost like the. I don't know. I don't. What were your thoughts on this song?
This one, I think, again, lyrically, I don't think any of these songs are necessarily. I think they're more poetic than
But
understandable.
Yeah, the thing is, I think my biggest problem with them is that they make, and especially if you read a lot of their fans online, they make an effort to kind of sound like they're deep while meaning nothing.
And I think that they're doing that on purpose.
It's definitely intentional. Like they've said it so many different quotes that I read. Like that was an intentional thing. I think that just annoys me.
Okay.
I don't know. Like it's almost like when I'm gonna make a weird reference here. There's an episode of The Cosby Show where one of the daughters is listening to some like current rock and roll music, and Cliff comes in and he's listening to the music and he says, you know, what in the world is this that you're listening to? And I don't even remember the artist or whatever. And she says, you know, Dad, this is like poetry. And she like reads some of the lyrics. Only the lyrics make sense in this context. And he says, well, you know, he doesn't read the lyrics like poetry. He screams them and it sounds dumb. This is like another abstraction where it feels like a parody of how kids say rock music is poetry, because instead of actually being poetry that's just to rock music, instead it's like faux poetry that doesn't actually mean anything to rock music, that sometimes the music sounds okay and sometimes it's more obnoxious. I know it's intentionally so. I just maybe these people, I was reading lyrics of reading fan sites of Pixies, and these guys are like talking about how they're getting tattoos and how this song means so much to them and how like they want this song played at their funeral. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's not about anything. I don't know. Maybe I just am asking too much, because evidently I'm in the minority of people when it comes to this. Let's see, where's my notes? The next song is called I Bleed, which you mentioned sounds a lot like Undone. What else did you write about it?
I have no idea what this song means.
All right, so I have a quote. This is a quote from the author of the song. It says, in the first two verses, there's no topic whatsoever. All this is just a rhyme structured around A, A, B, C, B, D, D, which is the structure of the rhyming or whatever the lyrical convention. It's all very automatic. The rest is about Arizona. There's a famous cliff dwelling there with 2 or 3 story houses with a mile up inside these cliffs. It's about 900 years old, and you can still see the handprints from people who pressed the plaster onto the walls, and you could take your hand and place it in the print, and it's very smooth. So the writer says that the first 2 verses are about nothing and the third verse is about Arizona, or the rest of the song is about Arizona. Like, it's a weird sounding song. It does have like that kind of like mixture of kind of what I consider Weezer like post grunge, but this is kind of more pre grunge.
Mm-hmm.
Of like distorted guitars and like kind of chanting over top of that. And musically, I can appreciate that. It's just a weird song.
I feel like this album is almost like, you know how like when you build a website, you can get those text generators that just like write random text so that you can see what your website looks like with like actual things on it. I feel like this album is the alt rock web page with just lyrical text pasted on it so that people know, you know what, just, you know, put whatever you like here, but make alt rock sound like this and you will be amazing.
And maybe I'm just looking too hard into like into the lyrics because I can't appreciate musically what this does. And I obviously it's a very, very it's like sometimes it's harder to see correlations between earlier music and later music. It is very easy, and a lot of these songs sound very different. It's very easy to look at the songs on this album and then extrapolate them to, hey, what do I like now? And you can see very clear lines if you know any of the music from the 90s and then the 2000s and then now. Like you can very easily see where that train goes. It's just that I don't. We had to get here, I guess, somehow, but it's a weird trail.
Yeah.
The next song is called "Here Comes Your Man," another single.
All right, this one was like a really, really poppy kind of love song sounding song entitled, you know, "Here Comes Your Man." So you could quite easily assume that it is a love song, but in fact, it is a song about a bunch of hobos that jumped in boxcars, moved to California, and then got killed in an earthquake.
Which the whole part about them dying in an earthquake is okay. It is literally impossible to decipher these songs, period. It is an even more impossible feat to try to decipher these songs in a 2015 context without hearing what the artist was talking about, because you may be able to interpret that it has something to do with a train.
Yeah.
You will have no idea that it had anything to do with hobos dying from an earthquake.
The last... I'll read the... Oh, that's the wrong song. If I pull up the lyrics, right, I can read off the last verse. That's still the wrong song. This one is the right song. All right. Big shake on the box moving down. Big shake to the land that's falling down. A wind makes a palm stop blowing. A big, big stone falls and breaks my crown. So, I mean...
I guess it's just
you have a vague reference to an earthquake type thing. You do have to, I would say you do definitely have to read into it a lot, but the writer's commentary on this entire album is, I would say, necessary in order to try to understand it lyrically.
Yes. So the longer I was listening to this album, once again, I will give the caveat that like I kind of like the sound of the song. The longer I was listening, so I was initially reading like different interpretations, trying to interpret the song myself. And I would go to this website and you have like 3 different forms of interpretation. Mm-hmm. You have like the interpretation where they give a quote from the writer where he kind of says what it's about, mm-hmm. which usually begins with him saying, it's kind of about nothing, and I kind of thought about this thing when I wrote it. Then you have the second interpretation, which is about something. There's a lot of like modern interpretations of, like, somebody thought one of the songs was about Hurricane Katrina. It was like, yo, this was made in 1989. I don't think they predicted the future. But also like random various modern interpretations. And then there was always the third interpretation, which at the beginning of my search annoyed me. And then eventually I just was like, yeah, they're probably right, because that's what the author says, which is like, it doesn't matter what it's about. It's about whatever. Like, who cares? It's just this thing. And it's like, but I need to know what's it about. And maybe that's me.
I think you're trying too hard, man. I think you're trying too hard.
With all these other albums, we've been able to take like when we listened to the Black Parade, we were able to dig deep into that. We had multiple theories that all made sense. And with this song, it's like, it doesn't matter. Just listen to it. And it's like, I don't know how to do that anymore.
I have a quote from this one by the author. It says, I get a lot of satisfaction when people are pumping their fist in the air and singing like it's some sort of simple love song, which would be fine because there's nothing wrong with a simple love song. But this is not that. Either way, they don't care or they're not interested. They just, interested. Just like I wasn't interested when I wrote it. We're all on the same page. It's sort of about something, but not at all what it sounds like. It's misleading. So yeah, he wrote this song apparently when he was like 17 or something, before he created Pixies. But yeah, it's just kind of like this song to make fun of people kind of like faking thinking something is cool because they think it's deep when it's not, or it's completely not what you think it is.
So far, if this album is anything like the rest of Pixies, my judgment of what's the guy's name? Francis Black. Black
Yeah,
Francis.
Black Francis.
Is that he's like the reverse Kurt Cobain, where Kurt Cobain was like constantly super angry that his fans didn't understand his music because his music was deep, and like
he's like,
hey, you guys are a bunch of druggies like rocking out to this music. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, I have serious things to say here. Whereas like the Pixies dude, Black Francis, is just like, no, dude, it doesn't matter what I wrote it about. It's just like, rock out, man. This is cool. It's like, I don't know how to comprehend this. He just said in that lyric he didn't even care really what it was about. He liked that people were enjoying it for thinking it was something that he knows it wasn't, but it kind of doesn't matter.
It's just like an entire like parody of poetry.
Kind of, which I don't know. Maybe I appreciate. It's just the weird. I don't know how to comprehend it. Maybe it was just too literal to. I don't know. The next song is called "Dead," which, like It Matters, is like an allegory of like David's adultery with Bathsheba and then the murder of Uriah, like the biblical story of David and Bathsheba, and then Bathsheba gets pregnant, and then Uriah is killed. But once again, I kind of don't think it matters what it's about.
Mm-hmm. He's just using like Bible stock text.
Yeah, and once again, like, it's a song where like I find I don't necessarily like this one musically as much, but you can listen to it and be like, oh, I bet that kind of inspired this song. Like, I bet this type of sound is what led to that type of sound. And it's like, okay, so I understand that this is important, but
let me hear it. There was.
Do you have anything?
Okay, this is the one. If you listen to this song and listen to Cage the Elephants, not their latest album, but the or not the one that they're putting out. I don't know if it's out yet. Tell Me I'm Pretty or whatever. The one before that, I think that those two sound. This song sounds like that album a whole lot.
Okay.
It's just kind of this, the way he uses the microphone, and it's just kind of like this. It sounds like kind of like a radio, and it's like
super distorted, yeah.
Super distorted, and it's like really, really driving and stuff like that. You can definitely see like where this album has influenced people to do different things in their music. In a later song, can't remember which one, but you can kind of hear something that sounds like Modest Mouse. But yeah.
The next song is another single called Monkey Gone to Heaven. Vaguely, I guess you could interpret it as environmental issues killing mankind. I kind of don't know if it matters. There's like weird allegory at the end talking about like 5 being mankind, 6 being the devil, 7 being God, and it doesn't go anywhere. But like the music it gets stuck in your heaven. No, heaven. I'm listening to the song. It gets stuck in your head because it's decent music. But once again, if you try to dig any deeper than the music, I think you'll be confused. And there's a lot of people that like love this song so much that like they're talking about how amazing it is, and they're talking about how much it means to them. And that's the part that confuses me. It's like, how could this mean so much to you? It's literally intentionally nonsensical.
I don't like this song as much. Yeah.
Yeah. The next song is called Mr. Greaves, which do we even like? Are we just gonna talk about our sounds of the album? Like what do you like? What do you think about this song?
I like this one a lot. It's just kind of like this kind of bouncy sounding rock song where you have, you know, like this kind of slower part and then it like speeds up a lot and then kind of, you know, goes back and forth between those two.
They've got the like, you know, during the faster parts, they're going like da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da,
it's like a really whimsical type sounding thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
And also, while the author was writing lyrics to sing during the song, he may have been talking about the destruction of the planet because of mankind also destroying the planet in this song. I don't know, whatever.
It's apparently like about nuclear winter. So like when a whole, if nuclear war were to break out, apparently what would happen is since all the soot in the air, it would like completely cover the sky and then cause us into another ice age or something like that.
But like it talks about how like this is the song where they say Doolittle. It's like basically saying if there was somebody like Dr. Doolittle that could talk to animals, they'd be able to tell us what's going on. But also, The next song is called Crackety Jones, which evidently was about one of Black Francis's crazy roommates. I guess. It sounds like this one's also very fast and like bouncy.
It's also like he mixes in like Spanglish type stuff.
Yeah, he does that like frequently throughout the album, like random Spanish and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got more, you know, vocal distortion a little bit. Once again, if you listen to this, like you can see MXPX all over this crap because this type of music inspired everything. It's not quite punk, but like you can see where it like pop punk totally like, oh yeah, that sounds like this. What do you have for the song La La Love You?
Lyrically, this is just like a stupid, silly song. I think that it sounds kind of like I would relate it personally to like a 5-iron B-side type thing, where it's just kind of like almost just a jam session or something that someone recorded and they're like, hey, we need, you know, 2 extra minutes on an album, throw this one in. Or something like that.
Yeah. Worth noting, unlike our album last week, there's like 15 songs on this album, but they're all really short.
Yeah. None of them. There's only one that exceeds 3 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was right. 2. I don't even see 4 minutes. There's no 4.
There are no 4.
Also, this song may be about a guy who just wants to get sex from a woman. I don't know.
Yeah.
Number 13, Baby. What did you write for this song?
So apparently it's about like
a Hawaiian girl?
Female Mexican gang member.
Well, it was talking about how people were talking about 13 meaning something, but also there's a lot of Hawaiian
stuff in it.
I felt like it was Hawaiian. I mean, it doesn't, you know what? I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter.
But also, I was reading people talk about this album, and there was girls that were like talking about how this song meant so much to them that they had to get the 13 tattooed on themselves, like it says in this song. And it was like, you people are high. Like, these lyrics mean nothing. Why would you get that tattooed on your body because of this song, which sounds cool and means absolutely nothing? And now there are ladies walking around with the number 13 tattooed on themselves, and they don't know what to do with their lives because eventually they stopped smoking weed and realized that this song isn't about anything, and they've made poor decisions. But that's just my opinion.
All right. There goes my gun.
What do you have for that?
It's another nonsense song. It's apparently depicting some scene from a movie where there's a space dude out in space and he sees this dude and is yelling at him, and he doesn't know if he is a friend or foe, so he shoots him.
If this album were instrumental,
I think that this would make an incredibly...
I feel like super into it.
Okay, just imagine the lyrics as an instrument and don't listen to what they're saying.
But I don't like the lead singer's voice either, and that's part of the problem.
Okay.
But like this song, like if you do what?
I do like the lead singer's voice, which I think if I didn't like the lead singer's voice, I would not like this album.
If I could get past it and just like imagine that he's not saying anything and it were just musical, this is a song that I think I would like more. Like it's a cool rock.
It's like a early, like a ballad type sounding.
Which is funny because it actually has the least amount of lyrics of all the rest of the songs. I guess it's 1:49. It's a short song. The next song is called Hey. Which starts off with the lead singer yelling, "Hey,
hey!"
I really like the way the song sounds. Even like this was one that I actually liked, regardless of my thoughts on the rest of the album. This one,
I think this one is my second favorite on the album.
This is something that would clearly lead to Weezer. This sound.
It sounds like the one where he talks about being an alcoholic.
Saying So, yes, very similar to Saying So or something. It even has a nice long it's only 3 minutes and 31 seconds long, but it sounds longer because it is longer comparatively. It's got a nice solo that's kind of smooth, like Saying So and stuff. I like this song. It's a good one.
This one was good.
I also like the next song, which is called Silver. Which sounds very like cowboy westerny.
Yeah, you got the like the steel guitar playing and stuff. It's very
not like country.
Yeah,
because country is bad, but like westerny, like cowboys,
like Desperado. Like it's a really awesome sounding song.
Yes, and it's got it's very like the thing that's in like the western sound of like Ain't No Rest for the Wicked and the entire Bastion soundtrack.
Yeah,
like that kind of feel. And it's got like a girl who I don't remember who it is, but like she's harmonizing with the song. This one works. I think it's cool.
And lyrically,
also I think this song is actually about a drug trip.
Okay, lyrically this is what did I write down? I said vague, abstract, folky sounding song talks about a dangerous place. So like
I read somewhere that this might be talking about heroin, but who cares?
Okay. Yep.
Also, whenever you look up lyrics for any song ever online, there's an interpretation that it's about heroin. I'm just saying that.
There's always at least one.
There's always at least one interpretation. Sometimes it's just like, how people post on things online and they'll just post and say first. Usually if you're looking at like songnames.com, there's one that just says drugs. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. What did you write for the final song, Gouge Away?
Gouge Away. Okay, Gouge Away is a song about Samson. I thought
it was even sound. I thought it was kind of weaker on the album. I didn't care for it too much.
This one wasn't as memorable to me. It's like really kind of grungy sounding. But yeah, I never really got into grunge too much.
Yeah, the thing about grunge is it's generally angrier than I want to be on an average day. Yeah. So I can't get into it, which is why some of the like grunge influences on this don't hold up as well as the like post-grunge, alt, general rock, even some punk sound that comes out of this album. But that was a weird. I think that's a weird. Go ahead.
I think this one also sounds kind of like that Cage the Elephant's album. Or no, this is the one that sounds like the I think the What is it? The chorus sounds like Modest Mouse, I think.
Okay.
It's kind of
I'm
like
not
this
sure.
distant yelling, kind of
Yeah.
a muted yell.
Yes, that would be an accurate description. Um, that's the end of the album. It's a weird song to end the album on, but once again, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And that is Doolittle by Pixies. I'm just curious, if you had to rank this, where would you put this in comparison to like the rest of the albums that we listen to?
I don't think it's going to be in my anywhere near my tops. I think it would probably rank somewhere around the high mids or something. For the most part, this week, this is all I've been listening to, apart for some other stuff that we can talk about in a minute. But
So
I think that,
I guess if we're listening to different music, we've like found the one album that we kind of disagree on how much we like it, which is like I would totally dig the Genesis album, and you would probably pick this one.
yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah, I don't think this one was very fun to research because everything literally means nothing. But like listening to it, and I think that is like a really great album to just like put on in the background and, you know, drive to, and you don't have to worry about, you know,
Yeah.
it's changes every 2 minutes. It's very diverse in its soundings. I think that it's musically it stands up pretty well.
The most valuable, like if you're trying to be critical about it, the most valuable research that you would be doing while you're listening to this album is to try to listen to this album in the perspective of 1989 and then listen to lots of the music that you listen to now or that you've listened to after that point and kind of look for a logical trail. I always think that's a fun thing, and this is a great album for doing that if you're into like alt rock or that kind of thing. But that's all for Doolittle. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but so then normally after we talk about an album, we'll talk about briefly what we listened to. Other than the album during this week, what were some things that you listened to that you were into?
All right. So this week, I think actually last Friday or something, or Wednesday. Anyways, my math teacher introduced the class to this thing called Calculus the Musical, which
Calculus the Musical. Looking it up.
It's calculus parodies of like songs between like the 60s and the late 80s.
Okay.
For example, there's a song.
It was made back then?
No, it was made. I don't know when it was made.
Okay.
It's fairly recent. They're still touring and stuff like that. There's a song L'Hopital, which is a parody of I can't remember who wrote it, but Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah.
Product Rule is a parody of Downtown by Paula something. Anyways, there are a whole bunch of parodies of like these different pop songs from.
But they're about calculus.
But they're all about calculus. So I've been, they're kind of they a lot of the times lyrically don't really work and sound kind of stupid, but I've been enjoying it. They are also going to be touring. They will be in Omaha, Nebraska, at the University of Nebraska in April sometime. So
kill them.
Yeah, if you got the chance, don't miss out.
I'll hit that up with my homies. Nice. That's great. I need to look this stuff up because the idea of math parodies of songs sounds awesome. Are there like rap too?
There was one or two rap songs. I
need to
can't
hear
remember
some
which
more
ones
rap.
they were, but yeah, there were.
Nerdy vibes and like all about the Pentiums vibes or something. I also don't know calculus. I never took calculus, so maybe it just won't make sense to me. I Okay, so after listening to last week's Genesis album, it made me want to listen to more Genesis,
Uh-huh.
which so I listened to Invisible Touch by Genesis, which is the album that came 2 years prior, I think 87. The song Invisible Touch is 3 minutes and 30 seconds long, and man, does it sound 80s or whatever, but man, is that song awesome. And I've not been able to get it out of my head since I first listened to it, or second, I'd listened to it or whatever. I love the song Invisible Touch. And then after the song Invisible Touch, like a Genesis song would be, there's a 10-minute song called Tonight, 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 which is absurdly long, and there's only like 3 paragraphs of lyrics. But I dig the it's like the Genesis thing. I dig these melodies so much that I like am willing to like listen to 3 minutes of this song and then skip it and still be really into it. And then I also like tried to listen to like some other stuff like Angels and Airwaves and whatever, anything. The reason that something else that I listened to that's more relevant is do you have something?
Continue.
Okay, I was talking to another big music fan, and he was talking about listening to the blues station of SiriusXM, which I didn't even know that blues music still existed and was made in any meaningful fashion. Well, I found on the blues station of SiriusXM, there was a show that had like, it was like a podcast style show that was just playing the 15 of the best 2015 blues songs. And I didn't even know that there were 15 albums of blues released this year. So since we are going to be talking about a modern album, I decided that we would be listening to a blues album since nobody suggested anything. And we're going with an album called Woodchopper's Ball by Jay Gordon. I suggest that you look it up on Spotify. I've only heard like little bits and pieces, and then I heard the one song that they played on this podcast. And like, I really like blues. Like, blues music is tight. Also, I had an album suggestion. Somebody told me an album suggestion to listen to something. Oh, Michael Jackson. Thriller. Okay. I think it's an anniversary for Thriller, and Thriller is the best-selling album of all time. The reason that we can't really do it for the show is because everyone knows Thriller, and I've listened to Thriller multiple times, and we try to pick albums we've never heard before. But also, I would recommend, if you're a young person and you haven't listened to the album Thriller, you might know half the songs already since they were all #1 singles. But it's a cool album. It's good, cool pop 80s album or whatever. Did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yes. Just a few hours ago, Weezer released another single on the YouTubes.
Yeah, so they played a song on Beats One called "Do You Want to Get High?" Is that what it's called?
Something like that. Yeah. And okay, I didn't realize this the first time I went through the song because I was just listening to it and it was in an empty tab, like I wasn't watching it, but the screen melts away and like it backs out and shows like part of the Pinkerton album.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, this is like if the last album was Weezer going back to kind of blue, this one is Weezer going back to Pinkerton.
Which I don't fully agree with based on the other single that came out. I don't know.
Okay.
The thing that was most interesting to me about the new Weezer single is there were tons of people that were just assuming that the song was just about like loving drugs and wanting to get high and like drugs are cool, man. Which I would say that those people had not like listened to any of Weezer's previous albums, which like are always talking about the dangers of addiction to like everything, like drugs, sex, like partying, like they've never been pro any of those things. So if it's a song about drugs, it's talking about like the easiness to slip into like using drugs to like block out everything else that's good about life. And like it's obviously like a 2015 homage to like Say It Ain't So. Like it even sounds similar to Say It Ain't So on like the core or the not the chorus, the solo. Like the idea that it is promoting drugs, I think, is like super misguided. If you don't, if you know about Weezer as a band, the second thing that annoys me the absolute most about that video is that when you so this is on me, you know, I know better, but I scrolled down and decided to read the YouTube comments, and as someone that is a huge fan of the band Weezer, I get super angry whenever people talk about Weezer like they only had 2 good albums ever. Like, so many people that grew up in the 90s were super into Blue and were super, super, super into Pinkerton. And everything that Weezer released after that was complete garbage and like it's throwaway and it's trash and Rivers Como like should go back to Pinkerton. And that's the majority of Weezer fans, like the large vast majority of Weezer fans. And that ticks me off so much for so many reasons. One, because people grow up and they make different music. Rivers is not a 20-year-old who's angry at everything. He's not going to make Pinkerton now. 2, he listens to music. People make music based on music they listen to. Music has changed in the 22 years or whatever in the 20 years since Pinkerton came out. Music has changed a lot. And like they're talking like a lot of the people on the YouTube, a lot of people on the YouTube comments were specifically bashing the single from last week, the Thank God for Girls single, while saying this one's better because this one's like that other crap is like from Hurley and this is like awesome because it sounds like it's from Pinkerton. And I'm like, why can't we have both? Like, I like Hurley. I like, you know, Make Believe. I like basically every Weezer album they've ever put out. Why do you have to be that hater that thinks that since this song sounds like Pinkerton? Like, I like Pinkerton as an album, but it makes me angry at people who love Pinkerton because they only love Pinkerton. It's like, I love Pinkerton too, but like they've done so much awesome crap since then. End rant. I don't know. I'm thinking about writing a post about this. Like, what do you like? Do you like all the Weezer albums? Like, what's kind of your thoughts on them as like? I assumed that you liked all their stuff.
I think I would say it is not very debatable that Blue is their greatest album.
I think still tons of people would say that Pinkerton's better than Blue, which that's fair. I think Blue is their best.
Okay.
Probably, but
yeah. I think
I've listened to Hurley twice this week, and Hurley is awesome.
I think I personally like. Okay, if we're looking at albums as a whole, I like Hurley better than Pinkerton, like by far, no question. But if we are looking at like the songs, no song in Hurley, in my opinion, can beat El Scorcho.
El Scorcho is one of Weezer's greatest songs.
That is like easily in the top 3 songs of Weezer, in my opinion. But yeah,
and maybe it's an age thing. See, that's what I'm thinking. The people that grew up and were teenagers in the 90s probably just hate music that came out past the year 1997. I'm guessing. I make a very, very conscious effort to try not to be that way. And I'm like, it has opened me up to a world where I'm like super into random EDM that comes out every year. And like, I like new music. And I think that maybe some people just, whatever, it's a preference. I think some people just don't like music that came out after they were 22. But for the people like me that really, and like you, that really like Weezer's entire catalog. Like I just get super angry at people that are hating on everything since Pinkerton, even though they've put out tons of great songs since Pinkerton. A lot of them my favorite. Like Trainwrecks is a killer song on the album Hurley. I specifically talk about Hurley a lot because I feel like we might be the only people on Earth that like the album Hurley. Like the internet hates Hurley. And like it's a funny gag because it's just the album is named after a character from Lost.
But they saw it in an airport and took a picture of him.
Like it's awesome.
What's the one after that? Not the one with the dog on it. Ratitude.
Which is also cool. Like whatever.
That one is named after Rainn Wilson, the guy that plays Dwight in The Office. They were talking to him and he's like, Ratitude would be a good album name. And they're like, all right. So they named the album Ratitude.
And it's like the problem with Weezer is they don't sell enough albums to keep a record label. Their biggest fans hate anything that they put out, quote unquote, biggest fans. And so like, if you read articles about like interviews with Rivers, they are incredibly depressing because like a lot of artists tend to do, he puts a lot of himself into his music and he finds like the reception to the music that he's putting out as like he views that as people's perception of him as a person, which I think is a misguided thing, but it's a very common thing that artists can fall into, which is that their art represents them so much because they put so much of themselves into something that that people's perception of their art is a very direct like tie to their representation of them. And it's like, I don't want Rivers to stop making an experiment. I don't want to not get songs like Thank God for Girls because all people want is Pinkerton again. Like I don't want to not get Hurley because it doesn't sound like the 90s like post grunge. And like reading his like there's a really good interview that I think came out this year or last year.
Okay.
With Rivers from Rolling Stone. And basically he's talking about how when Pinkerton actually came out, this may be hard for some people that are Weezer fans to believe, Pinkerton was a bomb. People, even Weezer fans that loved Blue, hated Pinkerton. Pinkerton was considered by Rolling Stones to be one of the worst albums to like come out, and they thought it was complete drivel. And Rivers was like personally offended and was like super depressed, like actually depressed about this. He's like, I guess I'm just like Blue was a fluke. He's like, because I thought Blue was so good and I thought this was a building on Blue, I guess people actually really hated Blue as well because I see this as a natural progression. He's like, I guess I'm a crappy songwriter. I guess nobody likes my music or whatever. In 2002, the same magazine voted Pinkerton one of the 20 best albums of all time. And it's like, did you not listen to it the first time? Because it was just as awesome then. I don't know. I was 5 years old when that album came out. But it's like, it's really rough because they can't sell albums because Weezer's kind of a nerdy band.
Yeah.
They're like a nerdy band. Like I throw them as like some kind of hybrid between something like They Might Be Giants and like regular rock music. And that's not fair to They Might Be Giants because like they don't fully fit in there, but like it is clearly nerdy rock while not being nerd rock as a genre.
And it, like if you've seen anything with like any interview or like read the lyrics, you can clearly see that they are all humongous nerds. Like
one of the first songs is about D&D. Like whatever, like that's what they are. And so like they can't sell albums. The people that are supposed to like them seem to hate everything they put out, and like Rivers is constantly depressed and like struggling with this stuff. And I just need a direct pipeline where I can like directly talk to Rivers and be like, dude, you're confused, you're making music for me. Like I'm the dude that likes everything that you put out. Like I like Thank God for Girls, I like do you want to get high? I like Hurley. I like Ratitude. I like Make Believe. I like Red, Green, Blue. Like, I like all the crap that you put out. So don't stop making music because people that are old now hate the stuff that you make because it doesn't sound like the music you used to make. Like, keep making awesome stuff. I heard a statistic today that throughout their entire career, Weezer has sold 9 million albums.
That's it?
Taylor Swift just broke 5 million albums on 1989.
What the heck?
That I don't know how accurate that is. That's what I heard. And it's like, dang it. Like, Weezer's so good. Like, they have things to say. They're awesome.
That's really surprising. I would assume that they would break more than that.
The thing is, like, when you think about, like, what are Weezer songs that have been known in the, like, the pop culture, it's like Beverly Hills.
Say It Ain't So.
Say It Ain't So.
Yep.
Like, they're like last year or what?
Also,
a couple years
I heard
ago,
Undone on the radio the other day.
What station? Like a was it like an old station?
To be fair, it was at like a hobby shop, so
okay, yeah.
I mean, it was kind of appropriate, but I don't know.
I heard what's their 2013 album? Everything Will Be Alright in the End. What's the main
that was
single?
Last year, wasn't it? Everything Will Be Alright in the End.
No, the main single, the one about Disco Suck.
Back to the Shack.
Back to the Shack. I've heard places. Which, like, as much as so like the thing is, this song, the Do You Want to Get High song, was debuted before anything else was debuted on the iTunes radio station called Beats One, which I've heard is awesome, but I haven't got a chance to listen to because I don't like iTunes or listen. I don't have any Apple devices. But I've heard that station is awesome. And it's run by DJs who know music and love music and everything. And the song debuted on there, which was super cool because they don't have a label and they're just making songs. And at least iTunes thought it was like a legitimate music DJ thought it was like, oh, this will be awesome to be able to play your new single on this thing. And I love that he's getting this kind of coverage. I didn't hear the actual interview, but evidently he was interviewed after the song played or before the song played, and he was a little bit ticked because like the record label dropped them, which like is fair. Yeah. But I also understand the record label thing because people hate it. But like, I just want people to listen to Weezer. I can't imagine that nobody would like them. Just nobody listens to them or has ever bought their crap. All right, I feel better. Some of this is on the internet. Maybe I've made the world a little bit better place. Do you have anything you want to go off on? Any bands that you think should be popular? You're a big Five Iron fan. I don't think they've sold any albums.
I want to get a Five Iron t-shirt right now. Calculus the Musical.
Calculus the Musical.
To be heard around the world.
Well, it's coming to Omaha, Nebraska, so you know it's getting big. Okay. Is there anything else we need to cover? Next week we're listening to Woodchopper's Ball by Jay Gordon. Do you have any way for people to find you outside this podcast? Like, your opinions are so rad. People want to know what you have to say, and they can't find you anywhere.
Yep. You can find me on I Can't Know Music on the Music. Or you can see the stuff that I like and occasionally share on my Facebook, which is facebook.com/I am Blake Wilson.
Nice. Also, you frequent the chat of hashtag follow the conversations.
Mm-hmm. You can also find me in there.
Conversation. Show that I do, or my friend does. I guess I'm a co-host on that show now. I saw it was burning and handed over the rails to someone else. You hang out in the chat there. My name's Michael Nip, MICHAELKNIPP, twitter.com/Michael Nip, facebook.com/TheRealMichaelNip. If you have album suggestions, comments, questions, anything else, corrections that you want to throw out there, email us at podcast@thecultureofmypeople.com. That's where you can find us. Or you can just comment on the site, thecultureofmypeople.com, where there's like 3 different podcasts running on that site. Periodically, we post articles.
That's right. You got a third one, didn't you?
yeah, I want to like go ahead and advertise another site that I'm kind of doing with another friend of mine, which is also about music, but it focuses more on like written stuff. It's called ss411.blogspot.com. It's short for like Soundscape. It's just about like music news and or like current music things, but also it goes back to other music stuff. But like we're trying to get that started. I did a musical. I did an album review of Carrie Underwood's album Storyteller, which, you know, country music is what country music is, but I actually tried to do a very honest, like I was giving my honest opinion, but I tried to give it a very fair shake. It turns out that album is not like grossly offensive in any way. It's just not very good considering that Carrie Underwood is one of the best singers in the country. That was my main complaint. Like Carrie Underwood is an incredibly talented person. I may not love the genre she does, but she could, like, these are, even if you consider the songs like Jesus Take the Wheel, which is kind of a mediocre country song or whatever, like she at least shows off her vocal prowess in that song.
Mm-hmm.
In this album, it's just kind of safe, which is what I say in the review. You should check it out at ss411.blogspot.com.
Cool.
And that about does it. You have any other comments, questions, good things to suggest?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Okay. So for I Can't Know Music, I'll Know Music, episode 12, this has been me, Michael Nip, and my co-host,
Blake Wilson.